So my mom had a scan of her stuff today. And I have been really trying hard to not just put it out of my mind, but to very intentionally stand in faith. Because I didn't know what the outcome would be. And I was trying really hard to find the point of faith beforehand. Instead of just looking back and thanking God, I was really working hard to look forward and thank God. Because I really believe that that's the point of faith, is to not see anything or to battle fear and to worship God for his goodness and his worthiness, regardless. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot of my emotions to juggle, and I have a lot of other things going on. In the mayor race, I made a big blunder, and I upset a bunch of people who withdrew their support from me. It was a well-intentioned blunder, but it just came at the right time, and it was just one more thing to carry. I think it's resolved now, but it just all came at once. And today I was home by myself. I don't get a lot of quiet time to myself, but I had it today. I finished my work early. And my mom and dad called and said, hey, we're on our way right now to the doctor. And I said to my dad, how do you feel? And he was super quiet for a second. And then he said, you know what? The only way I can put it to you, Alicia, is that I'm trying to stand in faith. And he said, that's all I'm going to say. And so, yeah, I said, yeah, me too. I said, how does mom feel? Because they were driving separately. And he said, we haven't really talked about it. He said, I think we just can't talk about it. He said, we prayed about it, a little bit this morning. But my dad told me he was up all night. He didn't correlate the two in his mind, but I knew he was up he has sleep issues anyway, but this was not sleep issues. This is your wife. It's just about to get real. Your wife is going to find out the progress. So I had this quiet time today, and the house was a mess. It's still mostly a mess, but downstairs in the living room, I sort of like picked up one item, because the house has been a mess, and I picked up this one item. And I thought, can you put this away, Alicia? Can you just put this one thing away? Because I've really been struggling with that, being so overwhelmed beyond measure, beyond what I can handle, that I can't even clean the house. Was talking to my husband last night about food. I can't cook the food. I don't cook anything. The house is always a mess. The floors are always dirty, and there's pet hair clustered everywhere and hunks of dirt. And I just sit there like a hoarder. I just sit there and stare at it because I don't know what to do, because I can't even barely. All my energy is going to. I haven't played with the girls. We used to sit down and just play. I haven't done that in a while. I just I can't generate the energy to do anything more than the basics. And so I thought, I can put this little one item away. So I picked it up and I put it away. And then as I was walking back, I grabbed another item, and I was like, oh, I know where this goes. And so I put another item away. Anyway, I all of a sudden told the Alexa, I said, put on some instrumental worship music by Hillsong, because I didn't want to hear anything. I just, whatever. So the music comes on, and I put it on a 10. I wanted to drown out my thoughts. I'm just put it on, right? So it's on a 10, and this worship music is blasting. And I just started to pray, and I just started to walk around the house, and I just started to cry out to God for my mom. And I was like, God, I need your help. You're the only one who can. I just said, God, I appeal to you to have mercy, Lord. Have compassion on us. We need you. Yahweh, Jehovah Rapha. And I was overcome. I finally I couldn't even walk. I was walking around and cleaning and crying out to God. This music was loud, and I was yelling, asking God for help, for intervention. And I said, Lord, there's nothing I can say about myself to hold it up to you and say, I did this. I'm your handmaiden and you should help me. I was like, I don't even have any righteousness to hold up before you, Lord. All I have as proof that I deserve a miracle is Jesus Christ, your Son. This morning I was reading my Bible in Mark, the book of Mark, and I came across the story of Jairus, the man, the leader of the synagogue, and he wanted his daughter healed, this little girl. And I was struck by something I'd never seen before. You know, as Jairus approached Jesus and he needed a desperate miracle, a desperate, urgent miracle, urgent. The little girl was on death's door. It was urgent. He runs up to Jesus. Please, come with me, heal my daughter. And while Jesus is supposed to be addressing Jairus, somebody jumps the line. The woman with the issue of blood jumps the line and touches the hem of Jesus's garment and gets her healing. Her healing was not an emergency. She had been bleeding for 12 years. I'm not saying it wasn't painful. It didn't bankrupt her. It wasn't inconvenient. Whatever. Humiliating. All of it. Everybody knew, apparently. She had it. But, how rude is that? Jairus has an emergency. He's running to Jesus 911. And some woman with an issue of blood shows up and touches the hem of his garment. And she gets healed. And the Bible says that while Jesus is talking to her, power goes out from him, and they're like, Jesus, you're crowded by people. How could you know that power went out from you? Everybody's touching you. And I was just struck because the Bible says, while he was talking to the woman with the issue of the blood and to the disciples, Jairus' daughter dies. Somebody comes up to Jairus and is like, it's too late. Don't bother the teacher anymore. She's dead. I can't even imagine what must have been going through Jairus' mind. I would be so mad. I would be like, what? I freaking got here first. My miracle is more important. And you healed the woman with the issue of blood? You don't heal the cancer, but you heal the back pain? You heal the headaches? And so I just was really like, yeah, Jairus, I think I would be very upset. We cry out to God for our miracle, especially our urgent miracles. We have an urgent need. Pancreatic cancer kills almost everybody. Not everybody. So almost, though. So it's the third leading cause of death in the United States. It's urgent. Some people die within a month. And I thought, I know God isn't like this, but I thought, he's got other things going on in the world. There's COVID, and there's wars and rumors of wars. And God knows, don't even take me down this dark path. Children are being raped, kidnapped, and caught up for their kidneys. And so I was like, Lord, I know you got a lot going on in the world right now. I know the crowd is pressing in. But I'm here in front of your face. I got myself to you. And I'm crying out on behalf of my loved one that needs you now. And you're going to tell me the COVIDs get in front of it? I'm standing here. I got myself to you, got myself all the way here, came in faith. Must have been a lot for Jairus to even push past that because he was a synagogue leader and they all hated Jesus. And so I'm not trying to sound like I'm minimizing anyone else's problems or pain. No, I'm just saying this is what I was thinking. Like, the crowd is pressing in. They all need something from Jesus. I'm on my face like Jairus is. And the woman with the issue of blood pushes past me, gets his attention, and my loved one dies. Not cool. And I don't have an answer for that, but I was thinking about it today, and that sometimes it does feel that way. The fibromyalgias, get healed, but someone's dad drops dead of a heart attack out of nowhere. Adult sudden death syndrome, which is a thing. Or SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. There's urgent cases. Anyway. So I have somewhere I have to be very shortly from this moment that I'm speaking. I have a photo shoot to do today for mayor stuff. And I'm supposed to be, right now, picking out outfits and putting on a full face of makeup. But I actually wanted to wait because I thought, what if it's bad news? I thought I'm going to cancel everything. I shouldn't put my makeup on, right? So, and I'm crying out to God. I mean, I'm trying to clean my house. I'm walking around wailing. Like, I was screaming so loud that I thought somebody might call the police. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. And it was coming out of me. It was like this primal scream. I wasn't even trying to do it. It was just, I was overcome. So as I'm cleaning up the house, my daughter left out a card that my mother had given her for Easter. And it had this scripture from Philippians my mom always writes in all the cards, which is, I thank God upon every remembrance of you. I think it's like Philippians 1:4. I should know it by now. It's been on every card my entire life. And I just, I saw her handwriting. To me, my mom's handwriting has always looked iconically my mom. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, there's something about her handwriting that means something to me. I don't know how else to put it to you. And I saw her handwriting and I just broke. I mean, I broke in half and I just couldn't even stand. And there was a chair behind me actually, and I stumbled back into the chair and I just cried puddles onto the floor. And I read the card. I made myself read the card, and it was like, "Dearest Adelaide, we are so glad that Jesus Christ gave his life for us and died on the cross and rose again in 3 days to show us the way to salvation. We love you so much." And I physically couldn't take it. And so anyway, I sat down and I just started to scream, "No, no, 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 not my mom, no, please." And I was just screaming, "Please, God, please, I beg you, have mercy, please have compassion upon my family." And I really felt like this horrible thought. I know it was the enemy. And it said, "Your mother will die in 3 months." And I just began to scream, "No, no, 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 no." And I'm hitting myself in my head. I'm to get this thought out of my head. No, no, no. It's going to be bad news. Cancer spread. It's gotten worse. It's gotten bigger. It's not surgical. All these things. And I just screamed, "Please have mercy on me and my family, please, because of Jesus." And so, as I was praying, I just felt this phrase come into my head. that the Lord had given me once before in another difficult time, not a healing time of my life, but a situation that I really needed the Lord to help me. It was from Psalm 118, and it says, just this little phrase, it's better to trust the Lord than to trust in princes. And so I said it out loud. I said, it is better to trust the Lord than to trust in princes, Lord. I know. I believe. And I was thinking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and how they were standing in front of that fire. And how, we read it like they're standing in front of the fire like, we know our God, like really strong and chins high. Maybe they're holding hands together, or their arms are crossed. The fire is blazing and the air is trembling, and we read it like, we know our God is able to save us. But even if he doesn't, we will never bow to you, O King, like all strong and filled with conviction. And in that moment, though, I could imagine Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing there crying, saying the words that I said. Maybe they had tears streaming down their face. Maybe their chins were trembling, and their eyes were filled with understanding of what was going to happen to them. Maybe their hands were tied. I think their hands were tied. They were sweating. And maybe they said it with a trembling voice and said, I know my God is able to save me, but even if he doesn't, I won't bow to you. I won't. Maybe they said it out loud to convince themselves, remind themselves. And so I said that out loud. I said, I know my God is able to heal my mother. But even if he doesn't, he's no less worthy. He's no less worthy. And I said, Lord, you have to help me because I'm going to get mad and I'm going to have bad days and I might hate you or something and I don't want to. Lord, you're no less worthy. You're not. I need your help through this dark valley. It is better to trust the Lord than to trust in princes and in men. And I had to just sit there until I could get back up again. I couldn't get up. But eventually I did. I was able to rally. And I don't know what came over me, but I screamed like that for a good 10 or 15 minutes where I just couldn't function. And then it sort of lifted, and I was like, okay, I can keep going. And so I started to just like come up and try to clean my room, which is a failing experiment. And then I have to be this photo shoot in 45 minutes, and I look like this. And it's randomly snowing in the springtime. That should be fun. My mom and dad called. And I just braced myself. And so my dad says, oh, well, we got out of the doctor, and he said, Mom's cancer markers, the last time she got checked, were at 80,000. So just to give some perspective here, cancer markers, whatever that spectrum may be, a normal person who's considered not to have cancer, their markers will be 35, not 35,000, 35, two-digit number. When we first started to notice there was a problem, and my mom initially, back on that horrible day, had her markers checked, it was 35, it was like 35,000. something like that. And then further in to the process, they went up to 80,000. So at her last check, her cancer markers were really high. They were 80,000. So today her cancer markers are 2,000. They went way down. They plummeted. Down. More work to be done, obviously. She still has to continue with chemo until she can get surgery. But one of the biggest concerns was the tumor was so large, will she be surgical? Well, the tumor shrunk by 60%. 60%. They thought maybe it would shrink by 30%, and it shrank by 60%. And her markers are down. And now that her markers are they've gone down so far, they actually are rethinking, does she even have ovarian cancer? She's got a large mass on her ovary. But you know what? I had a large mass on my ovary too. And mine wasn't cancer, it was a weird cyst. And they weren't able to explore it at the time. They just haven't been able to, so they've been using different markers and tests to figure out the ovarian thing. And it's like still a big mystery, apparently. But the markers are so low, it's showing that either the ovarian wasn't affected at all, but it's not showing up in tests, or what they're saying is they're not confident it's even cancer. What the heck? What the heck? They're talking to me. And I'm like, I can't even process it. I just had tears streaming down my face. So they didn't really want to talk, but they were laughing. I mean, they were so filled with joy and hope in the Lord. And, here comes the enemy with fear. Don't testify too loudly, Alicia. Game ain't over yet, honey. Don't tell everyone of God's goodness yet. Fat lady didn't sing. Still got a horse in this race. Satan. This little stupid voice. Whatever. So, my husband's hosting his radio show today. And I tune in. I turn the radio on. And I thought, his show is on and he hosts a prayer show. So I thought, I want to tune in and I want to send him over the praise report about my mom so he can read it on the air. And I tune in. Click. And the first words out of his mouth, the first words I heard are these. It is better to trust in the Lord than to trust in princes. It is better to trust in the Lord than to trust in man. And I just broke all over again. I felt like the Lord was sending me a little like an atta girl, not only confirming his word, but that I heard from him and that he had spoken good words to me. And I took that opportunity to believe those words. I let myself believe them. And I acknowledged that. Whether or not I knew the outcome, which I did not, I really wanted to sacrifice to the Lord my doubt by forcing my brain and my mind and my heart to speak those words out loud. Nobody was in the room. I was speaking them to myself and I was speaking them to the enemy. It is better to trust the Lord than to trust in princes. Psalm 118. And what a testimony. And you know what? The battle's not over. It's not. There's a larger war to win here. And I'm aware of that. And I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to celebrate every single step. Because no matter what the outcome is, no matter what that outcome is in the end of her days are, I'm thankful for every minute that I get. Some people die a month after their diagnosis. And here we are, shrunk by 60%, markers way down. So I've always been afraid to celebrate something halfway through. I've been afraid my whole life to worship the Lord halfway through, because it doesn't always end up the way you want, and then I feel like you get like spiritual egg on your face. I don't know if anyone else has that problem, but that's something I've always avoided. I'm like, I'll celebrate at the end. I don't celebrate halfway through anything. I'm like that in life in general. It's not just the spiritual thing. When there's work to be done, like this mayor thing, I'm not celebrating all the little tiny steps. But I might be a happier person if I did do something like that. My husband is like that. He's a celebrator, celebrates everything. He's happy about everything, telling people the news. And you know what? Sometimes he loses and looks foolish because, you know, he thought when he was unemployed, he would apply for all these great jobs and then thought he would get them. And he would tell everybody that he applied, and he was like, he just knew in his heart he was going to get it and God was going to do a miracle, and he never got it. He's not the only one. Lots of people do that. My dad has done it. You know, they celebrate ahead of time, count their eggs before they're hatched, and I don't do that. I don't know if that's a flaw. I don't know if it's a strength, but I don't count eggs before they're hatched. And I consider thanking God halfway through counting eggs before they're hatched. And I think that is a flaw in me. I think it is. And I need to think about that one, because God is worthy of celebration the whole way through. But it's almost like if I testify of this and I celebrate this major miracle, and then a month later everything takes a turn for the worse. No, this is the voice of the enemy, of course, but this is what I wrestle with. And then everything takes a turn for the worst. What was your celebration for, you loser? What was your celebration for? You lost. Your mother's dead and I won. You know, and then I have to go back and call everybody. Oh, my mom's dead, actually. She died suddenly from pancreatic cancer when a month ago I was declaring she's going to live, because we had one little tiny positive note along the way. I don't know if I sound like a psycho, but this is the stuff that goes through my head all the time. This is like my battle zone. But decidedly today, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to celebrate the Lord. Not after the fact, because I got good news. I celebrated beforehand and told him he is no less worthy now than he ever was, no matter the outcome. And I'm glad I did that, because the outcome was good. If it hadn't been, I would have had to seek strength for the dark valley, that portion of the dark valley. But it was good news. And I'm grateful for that, and I celebrate that, and I want to acknowledge the Lord and thank the Lord. This whole little story today, this little vignette of my day, really is a testimony step by step to his faithfulness and his goodness. I really do believe, and I've been challenged with throughout this whole nightmare, I've really been working through the concept of the Lord is good and his mercy endures forever. My mom has cancer, but Jesus has the answer.